Right now at 6, flooding emergency in eastern Oregon. How last summer's wildfires plus snowpack and a warm-up are all leading to rising waters.
We're just kind of at the beginning stage of this whole flood event that's going on.
Plus, Oregonians sound off on a bill that would end voting by mail.
I feel like we need to send this to the people to vote.
Then a heroic firefighter back on the job after he was gravely injured inside a burning home.
Just really happy to be here around the people who I love, my second family.
And later in sports, the decorated sprinter from Hood River who's going for Olympic glory on a different kind of track.
I had a coach, Coach Rye, in the 8th grade tell me that I was going to the Olympics. He didn't know in what, but I was going to go to the Olympics.
A very good evening on this soggy Monday where it is 45 degrees in the Rose City. Time-lapse video on the left of a thunderstorm powering through the Portland metro right at the height of rush hour, bringing lightning, thunder, heavy rain, and even some hail.
And while things are starting to clear up, there are still some scattered showers and storms in the area. Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino is in the Weather Center tracking it all. Matt, I know things can change pretty quickly. What are you seeing out there now?
I got a great time-lapse of that thunderstorm as it moved in about an hour or so ago. You see the clearing on off to the left and to the east, and then that strong cell and all that heavy rain poised to move on through, which it did. The thing about showers, as you mentioned, Christine, they move through pretty quickly. Showers and thunderstorms typically do, and this one, before long, you could see some clearing kicking in behind it, and this is a current view from that very same shot. You see a few breaks in the clouds over to the west right there, too. So, yes, we still have showers. It's gotten colder. The outflow from those showers and thunderstorms have dropped the temperature to 46. That's unusually cold for this time of the year. You see the rain is now edging up into Clark County. Still some heavier rainfall here and here, either side of Mill Plain, east of I-205, but we haven't had any new lightning strikes in a while. These storms and showers are beginning to lose their power as the sun angle has dropped off quite a bit right now. There's still a few out to the west, but for the most part, this is going to be a dry evening once we get through the next hour or so. And in fact, you look out in Washington County, see quite a bit of sunshine turning into a beautiful afternoon there, but still cool and still some rain showers out on the horizon. So the showers will decrease tonight and overnight. A few April showers on Tuesday, more on Wednesday, and then a very warm weekend ahead. More on that later, guys. Back to you.
Appreciate you keeping tabs on this active weather. Thank you, Matt.
Okay, we want to take you to eastern Oregon now, where the governor has declared a state of emergency as people in Harney County face a once-in-a-lifetime flood.
Heavy snowfall over the last couple of months and a quick warm-up has parts of Burns now underwater. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri shows us how last summer's wildfires are playing a role in the flooding as well.
Places like Burns in southeast Oregon are no stranger to snow.
The issue this year, we've had just a huge amount of snowfall over the winter months.
But what they're not used to,
nobody's seen anything like this since the 1940s.
The flooding that has consumed much of the area since last week.
The whole valley down below.
From Bill Selby's house, you can see the water that started from snowmelt after last week's warm temperatures.
You know, I see a lot of people deciding to stay, a long time in their homes until the last minute. I think people don't really believe it's going to happen to them.
Yesterday alone, nearly a dozen people had to be rescued from the floodwaters. Parts of Harney County have some of the highest snowpack in the state in the Aldrich Mountain Range near the Blue Mountains. Now the snow is melting into the Silvies River because there's nothing to catch it.
The vegetation that would normally hold the snowpack up there, to kind of melt at measured levels through the summer, it doesn't exist anymore, so it's all kind of black ground. And
that's because about 200,000 acres burned last summer from both the Telephone and Falls Fire. And to make matters even worse,
and unfortunately, the wastewater systems are unable to continue to process the wastewater, which has now leached into the floodwaters.
Right now, the Army Corps of Engineers are filling up sandbags to help stop some of the flooding. And Governor Tina Kotek declared an emergency.
And they're still very much in immediate response. So it's going to take us a little bit longer to better understand the resources that are the damages, the extent of the damages, but also the resources that are going to be needed to support the recovery in that community.
The deputy director of the Oregon Department of Emergency Management says they're going to be seeking help from FEMA.
Next week, we'll bring a different picture in that there's still a lot of snow in the hilltops to come down.
And there's still more that's going to fill the Silvies River that's been above flood stage for days. Joe Ranieri, KGW News.
Touch and go in Harney County there. Okay, to your headlines now. The University of Oregon and the union representing nearly 1,900 faculty reached a tentative agreement hours before a strike was set to begin. The agreement includes a 4.5% raise and also raises salary floors, including a new $52,000 minimum for career instructors. The strike, which would have been the first ever at the Eugene campus, is now on hold pending the union's ratification vote. Of course, we will update you when that happens.
A Portland woman is in a Clackamas County jail cell after allegedly driving under the influence and eluding police in Milwaukee. Around 11 o'clock last night, police got a call about someone speeding, driving erratically, and at points swerving into oncoming traffic on Highway 224. Police say the driver refused to pull over, but instead turned into a shopping center parking lot and drove in circles until officers used a pit maneuver to stop the car. Sharita Martin was arrested on a felony warrant and faces additional charges.
Happening right now in Lake Oswego, City Council is meeting in a special session to hear public input and to discuss next steps after a court ruling requiring public access to Oswego Lake. Now, after years of litigation earlier this month, the judge ordered anyone should be able to access the lake through Millennium Plaza Park. Counselors are considering whether to appeal that decision ahead of a Wednesday deadline. They are also looking into whether to direct the city manager to begin implementing park rules and safety measures at that access point. We'll have more from that meeting tonight on KGW News at 11.
And a big upgrade for the Kaiser Permanente Sunnyside Medical Center in Clackamas. Today, Kaiser announced plans to replace the 50-year-old main hospital building with a new 7-story tower. It'll have just over 300 beds, which is about the same as the current number, but they'll all be in private rooms. There will also be more emergency room bays and bigger operating rooms in what Kaiser says will be Oregon's first fully electric hospital. The old hospital will stay open during construction. Groundbreaking is expected next year with an opening date in 2029.
Tonight, a Republican-backed bill in Salem is trying to get rid of the state's vote-by-mail system. It's something that's been in place for 25 years.
And this comes as President Trump is trying to make some drastic changes to how Americans vote. Daisy Caballero has the latest.
And open a public hearing on Senate Bill 210.
On Monday, the Senate Committee on Rules heard public testimony on a proposed bill that would repeal vote by mail in Oregon by 2028.
I think it's time, which is why this is a referral.
Republican Senator Dave Brock-Smith is the sponsor of Senate Bill 210, and it would make in-person voting on Election Day the standard method for conducting an election and require people to show government-issued ID. But not everyone agrees this change would benefit everyone.
This bill would have a disproportionate impact on mothers and care providers who rely on the flexibility and accessibility of our current vote-by-mail system.
Oregon was the first state in the U.S. to conduct a presidential election by mail 25 years ago. Since then, 7 other states and Washington, D.C. have fully adopted the vote-by-mail method, though some say it's time to rethink that decision.
A lot of people do not want it, but I don't hear my voice being heard. I feel like we need to send this to the people to vote.
About 81% of the emails the committee received early Monday morning opposed the bill, with 19 agreeing. Many of those for the bill cited voter fraud as a main reason to pass it, specifically bringing up the Oregon DMV mishap in mistakenly enrolling hundreds of non-citizens on the voter roll last year. But the committee chair set the record straight.
Out of those 1,200 people who are being quote-unquote mistakenly registered, only maybe 2 people casted their votes.
As for Senate Bill 210, the committee has not yet voted, but with Democrats in power, it's not very likely the bill will survive. Daisy Caballero, KGW News.
In an update tonight, a Gresham firefighter who spent the last 10 months recovering after he was severely injured after running into a burning home is now back on the job.
Ashley Grams takes us to the Fire Training Center, where it was a day of celebration.
An outpouring of love and respect for one of Gresham's own. A few dozen firefighters lined the entrance of the Fire Training Center as Spencer Tejadas returned to work for the first time in 10 months.
How many hugs? How many hugs? How many hugs? Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one.
Friends across the department welcomed him with open arms and, of course, cheers.
I woke up this morning, put the uniform on, and it just felt right.
Last spring, Tejas and his crew were at a house fire. When he heard a child might be inside, Tejas went into the burning home. While inside, the room erupted in flames and Tejas suffered burns to 45% of his body. He spent the next 3 months in an intensive care unit at the Oregon Burn Center. Tejas says his arms and legs took the brunt of the burns, and a few of his fingers were amputated.
You know, him being hurt was a devastating blow to us, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And for him to be back is basically an uplift to us.
Just really happy to be here around the people who I love, my second family.
Proud moment for the fire department here.
Tejas will take on an administrative role within the department.
You know, I think I have a story to tell, a lot of experiences to share.
Mentoring new recruits and sharing his journey.
Sacrifice for sure. Kind of a little bit of shock and awe. You know, this isn't your typical 9 to 5.
And he did go into that house thinking a child was inside, and it turns out no one was inside that house. Those residents, they did get out safely. As for his new role with the department, well, those recruits, they start their training in just about a week. In Gresham, Ashley Grams, KGW News.